Good evening. We are live now on the event, but I'm just going to give another couple of minutes for anybody else who might be joining a little bit late. Good evening to people joining. I'm just giving us until I think 17:32, just in case anybody is a couple of minutes late joining, and then we'll kick off. Well, I make that 5:32 now, so we'll get started. So welcome, folks. Thank you for taking some time out of your day today to join us for this public consultation event around a couple of schemes that we're working on in the city centre, both of them based around public realm in the city centre. So my name is Rebecca Hawthorne. I'm the Travel Demand Manager at Birmingham City Council and looking after this consultation process. I'm also joined this evening by Craig Richards, who is the Project Manager for the main City Centre Public Realm scheme, and by Rob Bird, who is the Project Manager for the Snow Hill Public Realm scheme. Also by Brandon Wright, officer working on the Snow Hill scheme, and by Jill Brooke, who works in the Travel Demand Management team and is helping us out, particularly with the technical side of this evening. So you may not hear from Jill, but she is here as well. The format of this evening will be we've got a presentation to run through for you. You'll hear from myself, from Craig and from Rob about the various aspects of the consultation, and then we'll have a little bit of time after that if people do have any questions. If you do have questions, I'm afraid the format of the setup we've got tonight means you can't actually come on and ask those live for yourself, but we have got a Q&A sort of chat thread that you're more than welcome to put questions at any time during the event, but we will take the question, we'll actually deal with the questions at the end. So you should be able to find that, but I will ask Jill just to put a little post in the Q&A to say it's over here, so that hopefully that will help you to find that. So what I want to do before we talk specifically about the schemes is just set a little bit of context about transport in Birmingham and why we're doing these schemes and how they fit a little bit into the bigger picture. So we recently published the Birmingham Transport Plan, and that's about the future of transport in Birmingham and what we need to do to achieve a sustainable transport system. In particular, that document responds to sort of the challenges and opportunities facing us around city growth, population and economic growth, and the transport that allows for that, around the challenges of climate/carbon and air quality, and some of the really urgent action that we need to take to decarbonise our transport network. It also responds to sort of equity of access to transport, so that everybody does have the opportunity to reach the places, the jobs, the opportunities that they need, and connecting communities in a sustainable way. So the vision for the Birmingham Transport Plan, which I won't read in great detail, but it's up there on the slide for you, it's really about people-focused transport. So we focus on the people and the goods that we need to move, and not the vehicles themselves. And how we create a sort of sustainable and connected transport network. There's 4 key principles within that transport plan. First is reallocating road space. That's about saying we only have a finite amount of road space in the city and in the network, and how do we make best use of that? For example, creating bus lanes can be a more efficient means of moving people, because a bus can move considerably more people than cars taking up the same amount of road space. Transforming the city centre, which I'll say a little bit more about because these schemes particularly align there. Prioritising active travel in local neighbourhoods is about enabling people to be able to walk, wheel and cycle to their local facilities and making that safe and attractive for them to do that. And finally, managing demand through parking measures just sort of says that actually if you the trip end facilities, how easy it is to park, how cheap it is to park at your destination actually has an influence on how you might choose to travel, and we can make use of that in our transport planning and our transport policies. So transforming the city centre is the key principle that these schemes are best aligned to, and that is sort of a wide-ranging principle in that our city centre works very hard, even in these post-COVID times where things have changed somewhat. There's still an awful lot of people travelling to and from the city centre for business, leisure, tourism, retail, etc. And of course, an increasing number of residents within the city centre who are, a key part of that activity and who we must make sure to accommodate. And this is their back garden, making sure that they've got the access and the facilities that they need. And the main thing that the main sort of principle within that principle, as it were, of transforming the city centre is actually about making sure that we welcome people by reducing the traffic in the city centre. So there's a range of projects that fit within this, from the clean air zone, which has been implemented now for almost 2 years, from our plans around changing the traffic management in the city centre to reduce access for private vehicles but enhance access for more sustainable modes such as bus and cycle. Big ticket items such as metro extensions, bus improvements. Obviously the HS2 station is a major aspect of the city centre, and various schemes to improve public realm, the places in which people walk, cycle and spend time, not just the ones we're talking about today. We have other projects, particularly Digbeth. There's some public realm work happening at the moment. So for this evening, I've just done a quick map there just to remind us where the city centre is. Generally, when we talk about Birmingham city centre, we're talking about the area within the Middleway Ring Road, the A4540. But the two schemes that we're talking about today are in the sort of Colmore Row area around the Anglican Cathedral, Pigeon Park area. So just zooming in a little bit there, just to hopefully give people a bit of the idea of where we are. So we're talking about sort of Temple Street, Bennett's Hill, Newell Street area, and the two projects we've been working on in this area for some time. So we're actually presenting some phases that are not the first phase of any of these projects. So these are not completely new. We've been working for some time, and particularly working in partnership with the Colmore bid and the central bid in the city centre. The two schemes are, as I say, the city centre public realm, which Craig will speak to us about in a moment, and the Snow Hill public realm scheme. That is kind of the area around Snow Hill station. But the final point I want to make before I hand over to Craig is that in the project managers talking through some of the proposals to help you to respond to the consultation, they will talk quite a lot about the traffic management, that is how we manage the vehicles in the area. These schemes, however, are predominantly about making that space for people and enhancing the quality of the environment, the built environment in the area. However, in practice, we need to get the management of the few vehicles that will be allowed into the area. We need to get that right. So we end up talking about that quite a lot. But I want you to just have in your mind, don't lose sight of the fact that actually what this project is about is transforming what the place looks like. So I sometimes use the example of Chamberlain Square over by where the old library Birmingham used to be, sort of between the museum and art gallery in the Paradise area, and that area that has recently, as part of the Paradise redevelopment, been upgraded in sort of the materials and the environment, and now really makes you feel like you've come to a major European city when you're visiting. So that's the sort of the work that we've got in mind for the city centre, and the thing to have in your mind whilst the chaps are taking you through the projects. So I'm going to pass over to Craig now, who's going to talk first of all about the city centre public realm, and then we'll move on to Rob, who'll talk about the Snow Hill area. Thank you, Craig.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much, Rebecca, for the introduction and for the handover. So I'm Craig Richards. I'm the Public Realm manager for this scheme, City Centre Public Realm. I did join slightly after October 2019 when the project was first taken to outline business case and approved by Cabinet. Since then, we've had a bit of a rocky road. I'm sure all of you are aware of COVID-19, and unfortunately, as a result of that, the project was broken into 2 phases. That was mainly as a result of funding challenges and, of course, government directives. We had things like Eat Out to help out, which we managed and made way for. So, of course, most of this was about ensuring key delivery of infrastructure for Commonwealth Games as well, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Phase 1 has actually commenced, and we've got works now started in Victoria Square, Cromwell Row and Waterloo Street. And Cromwell Row and Waterloo Street are to the junctions of Newell Street and Bennett's Hill. And thus far, we've successfully restored the river water feature. Try for my colleague to. Thank you very much. And we've got some beautiful photos there of it fully restored, back and operational in June 2022. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, echoing Rebecca's comments here, the City Centre Public Realm project is looking to improve the street scene with high quality granite within the city core. Our important context here is it's creating an attractive yet safe and accessible space. And we'll do that by improving the hostile vehicle mitigation. Of course, that is well presented in the leaflets and the information on Be Heard. What is hostile vehicle mitigation? HVM for short is tested rated infrastructure such as bollards and planters. These come in a variety of different manners: static, movable, removable, and of course mechanical. Why do we need it? Well, of course, if we're putting the demand back with the pedestrian, greater volume of pedestrians mean greater crowded space areas, greater areas for pedestrians to get together, and that needs this permanent infrastructure. And if you're fully aware of the city centre at the moment, we have some large items, some black obelisk shape bollards which do protrude a lot of the footway, with some yellow drop down arms. These are all temporary infrastructure which have been placed to support our events teams and annual Frankfurt Christmas market. So again, the scheme aims to remove these and replace them with permanent measures. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, apologies for the change in format, but this was the best way of being able to show you the plan which is within the leaflet, and again which is on Be Heard. So it is a scheme plan and answers the question of what is City Centre Public Realm project doing. So if I work from left to right on the page, to the rear of the council house, we have what is known as Chamberlain Passage, which is the extension of Edmund Street. That is a follow-on from the Chamberlain project, which was delivered a short while ago, and we'll see the extension of paving and street furniture removal within Chamberlain Passage, and again the introduction of permanent hostile vehicle mitigation to manage the crowded space, which is Chamberlain Square. Down the side of the council house, and everybody's favourite coffee shop, Starbucks, you will be aware of Eden Place. And again, we are connecting that street scene with improved lighting and pavement. Joining the dots and connectivity, we do have phase 1 Public Realm, which is in the middle, Victoria Square, Cromwell Row. So you'll now see how phase 1 joins up the phase 2. As we move then through Victoria Square, we will complete the works on the steps, and then down into New Street, where we'll extend the public realm, so the improvement in drainage, lighting and pavement, through to the junctions of Corporation Street and New Street, where the metro tracks join. Off of New Street, we've got roads such as Ethel Street and Lower Temple Street, where again we'll remove the rather unsightly hostile vehicle mitigation, which is at the moment, temporary apparatus, which we're grateful for the support of our Colmore retail bids for planting, but they will go. Permanent mitigation will sit at the junctions. And then we have Lower Temple Street, which moves into Upper Temple Street, New Street and Bennett's Hill, where we'll make that fully pedestrianised and improve the demand for pedestrians in that area. The final section, which is in a slightly darker colour, is the Upper Bennett's Hill and the Waterloo section, where we'll improve the carriageway detailing, the asphalt surfacing and the movement of key vehicles into the city centre. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, We have done public consultation before, and we did undertake it in January and February 2020. And of course, I think you can all probably understand why we're doing it again. We have had that C word, and of course, COVID-19 has created change. By consulting again, it helps us understand the level of that change. Our visitors, commuters, residents, businesses, those who are coming to socialise, have all changed in some way, shape or form. And again, to come back out and have the chance to discuss the scheme with those who are potentially new residents, new businesses, is really important for us, and not just assume what we've had before. Felt it important to give you guys an insight into the previous feedback. We've not thrown it away, we've kept it, we've stored it, and we've reviewed it, and it's helped shape some of the preliminary design we've done and some initial changes we've made since we last consulted. The key is that 78% strongly agreed that the scheme was welcoming and attractive, with a supporting 72% of all respondents strongly agreeing with some of the proposed traffic management, vehicle access and loading restriction changes. They're the positives. We did take away some of the negatives, so the need for improved provision of cyclists, and my colleague shortly, Rob Bird, part of the Snowhill Public Realm scheme, will share a little bit more on that. Thanks, Rebecca. Some of the major changes we've looked at and feedback is around the traffic regulation orders and how we manage vehicles into an area of demand that is now with the pedestrian. Particularly taking feedback from our residents before around permitted vehicle access for off-street car parks, and for those residents, these will be regulated via the central control room that manages the hostile vehicle mitigation in the picture adjacent. Also for our businesses, we've got a more sympathetic access and loading restriction proposed between 11 PM and 11 AM. And previously we consulted on a far more restrictive 7 PM to 7 AM. Some of the feedback we did get was that our businesses needed to change the way they operate, needed to bring in staff sooner. And of course, in some areas of the city, particularly Temple Street, we now have a thriving nighttime economy with a greater impact of pedestrians. Again, that extension to 11 PM safeguards those people. And of course, we listen to our residents. Oh, jumped the gun there, Rebecca, you did so well. Of course, we listen to our residents and what was meant by permitted vehicle. Listening to our residents, the permitted vehicles give consensus towards emergency healthcare professionals, out of hours contractors that need to be considered. And of course, we'll undertake that work in the exemptions and exclusion sections of the traffic regulation order, which will go for a statutory consultation later this year. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay. One of the final changes we've been able to identify so far is the need for the reversal of flow of traffic on Temple Street to Bennett's Hill. It currently operates southbound from Temple Street into Bennett's Hill. My colleagues shortly will talk about the change of future changes in the city and how future access to the area is granted. But one of the main things we've looked at is how heavy goods vehicles and our service vehicles enter and exit the area, and how the number of left turns and right turns work strategically and engineering wise with the hostile vehicle mitigation and the demand on the public realm. To the right of the drawings there in the dark colours is what's known as the swept path analysis. Our engineering teams so far have been able to plot on the movement of vehicles that currently gain access to the area to help us understand how these vehicles move around and how they need to present themselves to a push button controller in front of the HVM, and how the risks are that vehicles could overrun footways. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, a final slide for myself is to talk a little bit more about where your responses will go. The historic responses we've got and your responses will help shape the design process. And that's really important for us. We need to take away some of the assumptions we've got and validate them with your responses. Our next stage to the design process is key. It's the early contractor involvement. At this point, we'll be reaching out to our central and Colmore bids, some of our residents associations, and taking the information that our businesses share with us around their needs for loading and unloading and access, and looking to put rates and measure and the contractor's involvement to help shape durations of the scheme That will feed in to a developed construction sequencing, and that will support when and where and for how long construction works takes. At this moment in time, we're expecting and anticipating works to commence in spring 2024 and last until spring 2028. Thank you very much, Rebecca, and that's City Centre Public Realm complete. And introduce Rob Bird at Snow Hill Public Realm. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Craig. Good evening, everybody. My name's Rob Bird. I'm the project manager for the Snow Hill Public Realm scheme. Again, just to say thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us. It's very much appreciated. So on to Snow Hill Public Realm. So as Rebecca said earlier, this isn't the first thing. This isn't the first scheme we've delivered. There have previously been other schemes in the Snow Hill area. You know, the main objectives of the Snow Hill programme is to improve public transport interchange, connectivity, enhance public realm, and prioritise pedestrian movements. To date, we've completed 3 projects. Those being Colmore Row and Livery Street Public Realm, so that's the area in front of Snow Hill Station. Cornwall Street Public Realm, that's, if you know, Zen Metro and Blaze Gym, the area around there, and Edmund Street traffic improvements. I've got some photographs to show you now about those. Thanks, Rebecca. So again, if we start from the left to middle, obviously those are some of the images of what we've done on Cornwall Street. You can see the public realm treatment there. So what I mean by that is it's the quality of the paving. It's a high quality. It gives a, you know, a slightly more desirable feel for people to use. With Cornwall Street and also on Colmore Road, which is the image to the right, we've created spill out areas as well, where businesses can bring their tables and chairs into the area to, you know, to create a more attractive environment to the public, certainly on those summer nights. And so again, using Cooler Poke on the right of that picture, they were very early to come in and ask for a license to be able to use foot tables on the pavement. Again, more pictures of what we've done. If you focus on the ones on the right, those are some of the benches that we've installed on Colmore Row. Again, giving people a chance to sit down, to break, take the weight off, so to speak. Again, just trying to create, you know, a useful area for people, to feel, to basically take the weight off and just have a cup of coffee and just relax, really. So on to what we're doing next. So the next scheme that is going to be delivered through the Snow Hill Public Realm is what we call Newhall Street Traffic Management. Apologies, it is a bit of a mouthful, but what that means is it's one of the main things we're doing is we're changing currently Newhall Street between Edmund Street and Colmore Row is one way. So for those of you who know, obviously you've got 103 Colmore Row, which is on the corner there. It's a big tall office block. That's it. And this is where a lot of the work is taking place. So we're doing at this particular junction, what we're doing here, we're creating a 2-way street here. Currently you can only travel in a northerly direction, so if you like towards Great Charles Queensway, that's right, that's Rebecca's sort of showing there. So again, what we'll do, we'll create 2-way traffic, and this again, as I go through the proposal, this all works in with the city centre public realm as well. As we move on to the next slide, the one thing I just want to point out, where one of the difference between this scheme and the other Snow Hill schemes we've delivered to date is it's not a public realm scheme per se. It is more changes to traffic management, but what it does do, it enables public realm treatment in the future. So using Craig's scheme as a good example, as you can see on this plan here, if you focus on the grey, obviously that's the changes to the carriageway, but if you look, you can see the footways as well, and that's where, so effectively we're coming in, we're doing the work we need to do, and then Craig's scheme, they come along during their programme afterwards, and then they will do the public realm measures too. So again, it's an example of the two schemes sort of, you know, working together, coordinating the works. So again, and to keep a message we've put in the leaflet as well, to try and keep disruption to a minimum where we can. Focusing on this particular slide, the main thing we're doing here, again, we're creating two-way traffic. So currently Bennett's Hill, is where you've got the Wellington Public House. That's it, sort of roughly where Rebecca's pointing there. So currently that traffic flows, again, that flows in a northerly direction towards Great Charles Queensway. Again, because we're making it two-way on the other side of Colmore Road, we're making it two-way here as well. And that the idea behind that is because it'll help with movement around the area. Certainly when we get onto Waterloo Street in a little bit, you'll see why that's needed. Okay, thanks, Rebecca. So Waterloo Street then. So right, okay, so yes, so Bennett's Hill being changed from one-way to two-way. Waterloo Street, currently what Waterloo Street does, it flows towards Victoria Square. We're changing the flow, and we're going to make it flow in the opposite direction towards the cathedral. We've already already what this is doing, this meets an objective of a cycling objective we have to unlock areas to the city centre that were previously closed. So currently cyclists can't travel in this direction. This enables it. The one thing I should mention, while you can see Bennett's Hill on the page as well, making Bennett's Hill two-way, making Newell Street two-way, that unlocks travel towards the Jewellery Quarter. Again, that's not something that we've got at this precise moment in time. Speaking with various groups, that's received some positive attention, which is what we want. The other thing what we're going to do, so already we're opening travel to cyclists in a direction that they haven't already got. The other thing we're proposing to do is a contraflow cycle lane, which will travel in the opposite direction. Again, travelling towards Victoria Square. So in effect, what this will do, this will allow two-way cycle travel. So opening up more areas of the city, and then from using the contraflow lane, you will be able to go right up Bennett's Hill. That will then work with Craig's scheme. You'll be able to travel down Bennett's Hill. You can go straight on towards Victoria Square. So it sort of opens up a few avenues there. If you have a look at Temple Row West, so if you have a look at, thanks, Rebecca. So the one thing, just before I talk about it, there is for those of you who know the area, you'll know there's currently some build-outs, some temporary build-outs that we're putting through the COVID-19 period of time. Our design has been based on those being in place. Separately, we are aware of another consultation that will be coming in due course about those. So to give you the update on that. So obviously it's a separate scheme, but that will be coming, and obviously we are working with the project managers behind that scheme too. So obviously everything does work with that scheme as well. Onto our scheme then. Again, so we're changing the flow again. So currently this flows in a southbound direction, and we're just going to flip it the other way. So again, we're going to travel towards Colmore Road. The other thing we're going to do as well, to complement the contraflow cycle lane on Waterloo Street, we're planning to provide a contraflow cycle lane on Temple Row West as well. Again, and that will meet up the options there that can carry on towards the rest of Temple Row or Temple Street, and they can also go down, cyclists can also go down Waterloo Street as well. When's all this going to happen then? So, and what's happening next? So again, we're a public consultation. Unlike Craig's scheme, this is the first time that we've gone to consultation. So obviously we're very keen to get some feedback on, you know, on the plans and get some views on what we're doing really. So obviously, you know, the responses that you provide either through this session, to the actual leaflets and questionnaires, those will go to help us. And then the next stage is what we call detailed design, where effectively we take the feedback from consultation and we look at it and we see what can be incorporated into detailed design. And so we have a, if you like, we go into more detail in theory. So we see what actually does work. You know, what we find with consultation, there's always some really good stuff that we, you know, local knowledge we don't have, so it's picking up that local knowledge. Oh yeah, we need to account for this, and it's trying to work as much in as is possible, you know, into the design and try and enhance what we've already got. Once we've gone through the detailed design stage, it's what's called a traffic regulation order, or TRO. So effectively that's another consultation, but it's more like where this is more trying to get a bit of feedback. It's a bit more of a final consultation on the plan. So we're formalising what the changes to the roads to get public opinion and so on. Then all being well, we're looking early 2024 to commence work on site. Well, obviously that is subject to going through all the relevant stages on time and without any sort of surprises, should we say. But that's it from me on Snow Hill, Newhall Street, and I think it's back over to Rebecca.
It is, yeah. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Craig. So just to sort of finish off the formal presentation part of the evening, is just to remind you really of how you can have your say on these proposals that we're talking about. So the main part of the consultation is hosted on our Birmingham Be Heard website with the URL up there on the screen. And I would encourage you, even if you did respond to that consultation back in 2019, please do respond again on the aspect of the city centre public realm. You can comment on the changes that we've made, and you know, we are well aware, as Craig said, times have changed, things have moved on, the way businesses operate have changed. So we do want to make sure that we've got that most recent picture of the needs and the use of the area. For people who don't have access to the internet, so if you have any, you know, friends or neighbours who weren't able to attend something like this and can't access the information online, we do have some information in the Library of Birmingham that people can go in and pick up and ask for. And finally, we've got a more sort of interactive event in the form of a drop-in event in the city centre at 103 Colmore Row in that lovely new building. That's next Wednesday, and we'll be there between 12 and 2 and between 4 and 6. Anybody can drop into that one, no need to book anything like that, and you can come and have a chat with us. You know, we can talk through issues in a bit of a less formal setting than this is. So I'll leave that bit of information up there in case you want to take a note of any of those. But again, that information is again on the Be Heard website. And what we've got a bit of time for now is if people do have any questions they want to ask, any clarifications, anything you want to ask about, you know, particularly the final scheme and the design, do pop those in the Q&A if you haven't already. And we will try our best to answer those, or to take them away if they're things that we can't answer at the moment. So just having a little look through what's come in so far. We had a question about where we can find the plans for phase 1, and Jill's put some information there. We've got the old consultation that we did on phase 1 is still available on Be Heard. They don't disappear from the website, so the plans and the information are there. And there's also some information on the City Council website, which is updated a bit more regularly, and that talks about phase 1 and also has got some information about the construction that's happening now, if people do want an update on that. Just having a little look through. We've got a question about the hospitality parklets, which Rob did briefly refer to, particularly those on Temple Row, saying, will the hospitality parklets be retained and formalised as part of these schemes? So again, I say Rob did mention that there is another consultation forthcoming, which will cover both the parklets, so the suspension of parking in this area and in some areas of the Jewellery Quarter, some of which are going to be retained, some of which we're not able to, just because of the way that the geometry of the road effectively works and the safety of people in terms of how we can actually make that work. But that will be coming soon. That consultation will also be hosted on Birmingham Be Heard, and we'll put the information out through sort of our usual channels, things like our connected email that we send out monthly. Actually, it's an opportunity to plug that email. If you're not signed up to receive that, we do have a monthly email that, well, roughly monthly, that comes out with lots of sort of transport related information. If you would like to subscribe to that, if you want to sort of say into the Q&A, please subscribe me to Connected Updates and put your email address. We won't publish that for everyone to see, but we can add you to that mailing list, which is quite handy for people. Sorry, I've hogged all the questions there and not let Craig and Rob get a word in, but those are the ones that have come in so far. But I'll give you a few minutes if you want to add anything in there on the questions side of things. Oh, I think we've got one that's just come through there. Will Colmore Row get an upgrade at some point? That's an excellent question. Would you like me to pick that one up, or Craig, do you want to jump in with that one? Maybe. Well,
Colmore Row is currently getting an upgrade, but unfortunately that extent only goes up as far as Newell Street Junction with Colmore Row. If that question is for the entire length of Colmore Row or between the scheme of Snow Hill Public Realm and Livery Street Junction, then Rebecca, I'll probably leave that one with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually I probably should have gone to Rob as well, because it showed in the photos there, some of Colmore Row has been covered already by the Snow Hill Public Realm scheme, hasn't it? So do you want to just speak about what you've already done there?
Yes, of course. So obviously the section of Colmore Row that we've done through the very first scheme on the programme was to go from Colmore Circus. So if you can imagine, going in front of the Snow Hill station, and then it stops pretty much outside Barclays Bank, and in that section what we've done, we've increased the areas of public realm. So in theory that's widening the footways on both sides of the road, installed a wider crossing as well for pedestrians to get across safely. And again, as I showed earlier in the presentation, it's just increasing improving the general feel of the place, and so far sort of some of the feedback we've had has been quite positive. I think that's probably it from myself on that.
Yeah, I think there are also some sort of strategic discussions happening around where we go next with Colmore Row. There's nothing formal planned there, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are future projects coming forward, but I can't promise that because it's only sort of high level discussions at the moment. Will the whole/underground passage in Chamberlain Square off Edmund Street be filled in? Ooh. Okay, so I think is that the access to the underground car park for the council house? I think
it is in the rear of Chamberlain, and I can take that one. What I won't do is confirm it 100%. I do have planning drawings and documents as I'm engaging with the former Paradise team, which is MEPC. And the contacts there, they've shared their details, but without having to scramble very quickly through to those documents to confirm it. I'm happy to receive a question via our transport projects email address, and I'm happy to share if they are or aren't, or put you in touch with the team who manage the Chamberlain side of that planning application. But yeah, apologies. I've seen drawings. I just personally cannot recall whether they are or aren't.
Thanks, Craig. And that's a timely reminder to me that I should have put the Transport Project's email address onto this Have Your Say slide. So Brandon, if you could just pop that into the Q&A for people. If you do have questions that you want to pick up with us, or comments that you want to send in that don't quite fit the form of the survey on Be Heard, then you can use that. I think it's transport.projects, but Brandon will pop that in the chat to confirm. And yes, my bad, forgot to put that on the slide. Give people a little bit longer, see whether we've exhausted the questions for now. As I say, you're very welcome to come along next Wednesday as well, even if you've been tonight, if you feel that you haven't kind of got the answers that you need, or if you do feel that you have, then great, then this has been a useful session. That's brilliant. Brandon's confirmed the email address there for us, transport.projects@birmingham.gov.uk. If you've got questions that we haven't been able to answer now, or that say feedback that you want to give that's more difficult to give in the survey on Be Heard, then please do that. Although it is useful if you're doing that, if you can still fill in the information on Be Heard, because some of the questions there where we've then got tick boxes, it helps us to have that fuller picture of, you know, everybody's ticked the box to sort of give us the indication of how they travel in the area or how they use the area. So, and particularly businesses around, you know, what are your loading requirements, all that sort of stuff that we're trying to capture. Lee. Oh, we've got one here. Are there any plans for Stevenson Street? It's a mess at night with taxis and blocking the tram. That is a good question, and the person who knows the answer is not on the call at the moment, unless anybody else has got more there. I know there has been some looking at kind of the stuff around the tram and movements there, but I'm afraid I don't know that one. We might have to get back to you on that one, unless anybody else does have any knowledge in their head on that.
Sorry, Rebecca, no.
No, that's fair enough.
No, I'm afraid.
No, that's fine. If you want to, if you've posed that question, if you want to pop your email address again into the Q&A and we won't publish it, then we will get back to you. I know the right man to ask. I just haven't invited him this evening. We may have exhausted your questions. It's certainly an exciting time for transport and for the city centre. There's an awful lot happening around sort of the Birmingham Transport Plan. So, you know, Birmingham obviously is constantly reinventing itself, but I think there's some really nice stuff happening in the city centre, and it really gives it that sort of vibrant feel, you know, updating how people use the space, you know, increasing leisure facilities, and that nighttime economy that Craig referred to is certainly becoming quite prevalent in that area. So yeah, it's a good time for the city centre. That's lovely then. I think we probably have then exhausted the questions for this evening, so I'll let you get off, because I'm sure you all want to go and have your tea. You know, I'm certainly hungry. So, but thank you everyone for taking the time to join us this evening. We will pop the recording of this onto online as well and link it from the consultation. So if you do have any friends, colleagues, neighbours who haven't been able to make it tonight but would like to watch the presentation, we will pop that up there in the next couple of days. So it just remains for me then to thank Craig and Rob as the project managers for the presentations, and for Brandon and Jill for their quiet support in the background, and thank you all for attending, and we will call it a night. Good night.
Yep. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Good night.